News and information 570 AM, 96.3 FM, HD2.
More stories, more news.
KLIF.
So, as I mentioned earlier this week, I was out some of last week because my mom was in an accident with an 18-wheeler down in San Antonio late in the week. She's going to be okay. She's still in ICU, but she's got a lot of broken bones, ribs, and stuff. And, you know, you start thinking about this because you see a lot of these ambulance chaser lawyer ads, and some are shady, some are not. But do you let your insurance company handle it? Do you let their insurance company handle it? Do you settle? Do you sue? Decided to bring in Fort Worth traffic accident lawyer Stephen Laird to help me answer some of these questions. Steve, where do you start?
Well, first of all, Kirk, let me say that I regret hearing about the injuries to your mother. But these types of occurrences happen all too frequently on our roads and highways. And although the vast majority of 18-wheeler drivers and trucking companies are good drivers and good companies with good training, there are some out there on the roads who pay very little attention, if any, to safety.
We're talking to accident lawyer Stephen Laird. For like my mom's case, now that it's happened, should her insurance company contact theirs? Should she get what kind of protection for my mom? She's still in ICU and probably going to be there for at least this week and going to be going through rehab for the next couple of months.
The worst mistake that most people make is waiting to contact a lawyer because they don't realize that the insurance company's lawyer has already been to the scene, usually within the first 24 hours. That's the way the vast majority of trucking companies, and more specifically, their insurance companies, operate. They make sure that they get out there early. They make sure they have the advantage of seeing what the evidence is, and if they can talk to witnesses and sometimes even put a spin on certain witnesses' testimony, then they have that advantage if they get out there early on. It's natural for somebody who's gotten severely injured or for the family of somebody who is either injured or killed not to immediately think about hiring a lawyer. I understand that, but at the same time, being a lawyer who represents individuals and families in trucking cases, I understand all too well how important it is to get out there and get access to the evidence so you can find out what really happened, so that it will prevent the trucker or trucking company to later on come in and deny responsibility when it appeared to be clearly their fault from the beginning.
So basically, your best advice is jump on it early, and protect yourself.
Absolutely. And I know that to some people, that's going to sound like it's an over-eager plaintiff's lawyer.
Sure.
That is not the situation, because I'm talking about protecting people's rights. Something else that a lot of people don't think about initially, but it becomes a stark reality as time goes on. And that is that, especially if there is a very serious injury, somebody's in ICU, for example, for an extended period of time, with significant medical bills, and they may have a significant amount of lost wages, they may have a significant amount of impairment, even if on down the road, a year or two, there's expected to be pretty much of a full recovery, there's a lot that's going to be taken away from them in that period of time. That's if they recover. Federal law only requires a minimum of $750,000 for a vehicle like an 18-wheeler. And as a practical matter, most trucking companies will get $1 million. But the vast majority of trucks that you see on streets and highways in the state of Texas or any other state for that matter, the vast majority of them have the absolute minimum amount of insurance required. And in this day and time, if there's a death or an injury that is very serious with significant medical expenses and lost wages and impairment, then that $750,000 policy, or even if they increase it slightly to $1 million to meet the bare minimum requirements of federal law, does not go very far. What most people are not aware of is that their own health insurance company, the one that has ended up paying most of the medical bills will be there with its hand out and say, hey, we have this subrogation clause in the health insurance contract that requires you to pay us back if you get any type of settlement from the trucking company or its insurance company. We get to be paid back first.
Talking to Fort Worth accident lawyer Stephen Laird. Okay, before I let you get out of here, how do you separate, because as we know, some of these ambulance chasers and lawyers, some of them don't necessarily have, quote, my best interest. How do you kind of separate which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad?
Kirk, that is an excellent question. And my advice to people is that, first of all, they shouldn't hire a lawyer just because of advertising.
Yeah.
If they're driving down the street, for example, they need to take more time and more effort in hiring a lawyer for a very serious personal injury or a wrongful death. They need to take as much time as they would probably take to hire someone to do a small construction project at their house, or perhaps an electrician, or perhaps a plumber, and yet a lot of people unfortunately don't. They need to ask some very direct questions and make the lawyer answer. Ask the lawyer if he or she is board certified in personal injury. Ask how many jury trials of 18-wheeler cases they have actually handled, and ask how many overall trucking cases they handle. And lastly, ask if they will be the one actually handling it. A word to the wise, my piece of advice in answering your question is ask the direct questions. Do not be hesitant or afraid to ask a lawyer. The decision is far too important to the family, and those questions need to be addressed right up front.
Well, Steve, I appreciate you jumping on. Is there a website or a phone number if people have additional questions for you?
Sure. Our website is Tex Lawyers, that's TEXLAWYERS, TexLawyers.com.
Stephen, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks so much.
Kirk, take care.
Fort Worth traffic accident lawyer